whenever I teach, but more importantly, I think teaching here makes me have one huge wish, and that is that you could all know what it was like to sit with Rudy. I kind of would describe myself as a summer breeze and Rudy as a hurricane. It's a big difference. It's a big difference in how you work. You know, opening to this energy is not threatening, it's not that hard, it's kind of wafts through, it's sweet, it's real, which is helpful, but you don't have to fight to get out of the way, you're just going to have to move this way, move that way. Rudy was like that to everybody. He was powerful, powerful energy, you know, constantly. And the room was endlessly filled with people having kriyas and falling over and shaking and all of that, and it was very dramatic and wonderful and liberating on some level. I mean, Rudy would take one look at me and I was gone. I was over on the floor, and I would be there for 5 minutes, then I'd come back and go, oh yeah, I'm class, and you know, and I would keep working with him, and it would keep getting bigger and bigger and stronger, and I kept feeling how much I wanted to be Rudy, how much I wanted to teach, how much I wanted to be what that energy was, and I knew I wasn't that. And I kept trying to find ways to break through being Bruce. And I remember sitting here one night after, it was in the middle of the first summer we were here, and I came into the classroom by myself, and I just bowed down. We didn't have a statue yet, but I just kept bowing down and saying, please, please help me grow. Please help me arrive at something worthy. Please help me to not be Bruce, basically. And I kept banging my head against the floor, and I started crying. And then all of a sudden I heard music in the background. And Calvin Holt, one of the guys I spoke about earlier the other day, had come into the room, and he brought a tambourine, and he started singing. And he was accompanying my drama. and it was so powerful. And I just took it on, and I kept taking it on, and I just asked and asked and asked, and finally I felt something like, kind of, you're not going to be Rudy, you're going to be Bruce. And I remember getting up and walking past Calvin, who was still banging the tambourine, and walking out that door over there, and walking into the dining room where we had lunch the last couple of days, and Rudy was in there playing poker with these guys, and he took one look at me and he said, and I sat in his lap, and he just cuddled me like that, and he just took me, and it was like, and I knew it was okay to be Bruce, and I knew it was okay, this is 30 some years later, more, to be sitting here where Rudy sat and to be Bruce. I remember standing outside over there, and I would say to Rudy, I said to Rudy, I really want to teach. And he said, you're not ready. You're not ready. And I didn't know what to do with that, but I knew he was right. I was not ready. And it took me so many years before I was ready. And then there was this extraordinary experience of when I finally sat down to teach, knowing how to do it. I can't even describe it. You know, nobody gives you instruction on how to teach. You just sit down and you just arrive in this place, and suddenly energy moves through you, and other people who are open receive it. And the lesson I learned then in teaching, and I think every teacher learns this lesson, and it's really powerful, and it's kind of the last sort of element I want to talk about here in this Big Indian series of lectures. And that lesson is, it's not about you. It's never been about you. It's about what is. You play a role in that, And sometimes it appears beneficial to you, and oftentimes it appears to be just the opposite, not beneficial. And this energy, this dynamic that moves the universe, that makes everything affect everything, has you in the mix. But you're not separate from it, you're not special to it, and you're not invisible to it. You are one with this unbelievably dynamic force that you can call life or God. But it is a remarkable energy, and it knows what it is doing. Trust me, it knows what it's doing. It often looks to us like it doesn't. We would do it differently. We wouldn't cause pain and suffering, probably. That's what people say. But out of all of these things that life does, this huge reality continues to manifest itself. And we are, in this given moment, part of that manifestation. We are what we are. We're not here for long, and it's not thinking about us. It's not thinking about making us happy, giving us a lot of money, making us famous, whatever. That's not part of the agenda. It may happen. It may all work out in certain ways that you would like. Part of it has to do with the fact that we've been given this free will, so we can push things along the way we want them. But there's a lesson that's learned in all of this, because not everything works the way you want it. There's a lesson that has to do, and we've talked about it this weekend, thy will. Your will, thy will. And it's amazing. Thy will is so big. It's so overwhelmingly aware of itself that it absolutely incorporates your will in it, if you allow that. But if you make it my will, and it gives you the opportunity to do that because it's its will to let you do that, it will create all these strange movements and disturbances almost, but they're absolutely appropriate. Your will is part of the divine plan, if you want to call it that. Your will is part of thy will. But it often is very disruptive, and it's often complicated, and it's a dance. It's a dance where you're often doing the wrong step, but it kind of moves you into the right step, or it finds great humor in the fact that you don't know how to dance. But you go out there and you do your best, and you try to control circumstance, you try to control the universe, you try to follow what makes you happy and try to avoid the things that make you sad. And what happens in the end is you can make a lot of just terrible choices. Terrible. They won't be the wrong choices in the larger scheme of things, but they may be the wrong choices for you. Meaning, you won't get what you want, you won't get what makes you comfortable, you won't get what makes you happy, people you love will leave you, people you want will stay. All these different things happen. All these different things come about because something vast is at work. So, I kind of apply that to Big Indian, and I kind of apply that to this particular weekend. And I know those of you who have been listening to me know that I did not want to come here. And so many forces were at work making me have to come here. And the words that kept coming through, even before I left Seattle, the thing that came through is just what I said a minute ago. It's not about you. And I have found this to be true so many times because I get somewhere that I didn't want to go, and something gets said to someone that had to get said. Something gets shared that needed to be shared, and it would never have happened if I had followed what I wanted. Because I always have good reasons not to go. I mean, they're good, they're solid. They're wildly inconvenient, I mean, this last week and a half, we took possession of a house in San Rafael, and we left the day we took possession to come here. I had every right to be moving and loading a truck to take the furniture. And Blanche and I kind of argued about this, and I kept going, but we could go now. We should do this. This doesn't matter. We should do what's in front of us. But this was in front of us. And it hit me all of a sudden in a restaurant where we were arguing about my wanting to push things faster. But there's no reason to push things faster. There's no reason other than that I wanted to push things faster. That there's nothing demanding that you do it now. There's no reason that truck can't wait. Bless you. There's no reason this truck can't wait 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it's going to be. It's your mind. It's your mind that says this is how it should be. And then it's your mind that makes you uncomfortable and unhappy because you're not following your mind. But you let go and you realize it's all fine. It's going to work out in its own way. And so by not moving when we said we were, this last week emerged. And this last week was rich beyond understanding. I can't even explain it. I mean, each day was full of remarkable, remarkable surprises and occurrences and coincidences that are beyond comprehension on some level. I'm not going to go into the whole layout of it because it doesn't exactly matter. But things came about this last week that were extraordinary, and they are culminating here. And I started this talk, a series of talks, with how Big Indian is hard, has always been hard for me. I realized today, driving here and looking at all the valleys, I'm very claustrophobic, and I realized that's part of the problem. This whole place is stuck at the bottom of valleys. There's no perspective. There's nothing out there except more hills, and I don't like that. And I feel stuck in the valley of the shadow of what. So here we are in this valley, and I come here with resistance, and I don't know quite why I'm doing it, other than the fact that I have a lot of students that I left last year when I moved to the West Coast who I haven't seen and I wanted to see. And, I have a great affection for John and Capella. And this was available, and I had nowhere else that I could go to teach. I sold my house. I don't have anywhere else to do this. So I said to John, when he was visiting us in Seattle, could I use this space? And he just looked at me like, are you crazy? Of course you can use this space. What else is it for, really? And so I just said, well, that's what we're going to do. And then I called Lama Rengbar, who's now part of the equation, and I asked him if it was all right, because I didn't know exactly how many people I had to ask for permission. And everybody said yes. And then we arrived here, and as I started teaching the first class, it started to rise up in me, something important is happening here. Something important. Something transformative. I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't plan for it to happen. I didn't even want it to happen. But what I understood was Rudy is in the soil of this place. He is a blessing to anyone who comes here. That there is an energy here that is not fun, but meaningful and important. That it can change people and wake them up. It can make them see what they're not and what they can be. And that it needs to be preserved is one word, kind of resurrected is another. Something is happening here that will only happen through a kind of collective energy. And I didn't know how it was going to happen. Blanche and I made zero plans for coming here, other than Blanche asked people to bring food and told you what to bring, because somehow or another you can't have 2 days somewhere and not have anyone eat. So that was done. And I said, I don't know how this is going to play out, but it will. I described it as an ad hoc retreat. And then I watched what happened. How everyone found their place. It was the most beautiful thing ever. Everyone knew whether to wash dishes, whether to work on the porch, to scrape around the house. Everyone found work to do, and it happened. Everybody participated in this. Even the bear experience this morning, walking into the kitchen was a disaster area. Nobody hesitated but to clean it up and make it right. It was right so fast. And there was a kind of connectivity and communality that was happening here that I remember from the days when Rudy was here. And it happened when Rudy was here because Rudy was here. If Rudy wasn't here, it got very kind of chaotic. Everybody going, well, it should be this, it should be that. No, you're wrong. This is how it should be. Nothing like that was taking place today and yesterday. There was nobody saying, this is how it has to be done. You do this, you do that. What happened is what I have been experiencing in the last year of my life, which is one of the most miraculous transformations for me. Everything was flowing as it should, or as it wanted to. And when it does, a kind of perfection arises. And I know that word perfection has been used a lot this weekend, but that's the only way I can describe it. Everyone finds their place. Everyone does what they know is to be done, and it works. It just works. And the feeling I have coming away from this weekend, which is the first retreat of this kind I have ever done, or ever been a part of, is that more wants to happen. This is not the end of anything. This is the very beginning of something. And I don't know how it will work, and I can tell you I'm not going to be any more attracted to coming here again than I was before. On the other hand, I absolutely know that I and others who arrive here in the name of what is are going to be able to transform this into something remarkable. And I started to have visions, and I talked to Lama Rengbar, and I talked to John, and I'm starting to see this is beautiful. This is really beautiful. Chris and I had a very important talk today about how this can be made to work in some legal fashion. And I'm seeing this changing all of us. You know, I mean, it's going to be a retreat. It's going to be a spiritual retreat. And it's not going to be for Rudy or for the Tibetan Buddhists, it's going to be for everyone. Anyone who wants a spiritual touchstone will have a place to come, and they can sit at any shrine they want. I'm not a shrine person particularly, but we'll have shrines, and Lama Rengbar called it a spiritual garden. I kind of like that. You'll find your place to sit, and you'll just sit there. And this hall, which will be here, will always be a collective space to gather for those who need a space for their group, for their teaching, for their people to be. And we'll come in here, and I will get back here, and you guys will come, and you'll bring your students, and you'll bring people you love, and they will come here, and this will just flower. And this is, I think, a gift to us, but more importantly, a gift to Rudy. You know, Rudy set something in motion, and it got very, very quiescent for a while. Or more importantly, it didn't have the dynamic that Rudy was envisioning, I think, when he was alive. Like, you know, Rudy being a thunderstorm or a hurricane, this thing would have grown and grown and grown. But when that energy goes, what's left? And there were a lot of individual energies, and my own energy is, as I said, pretty mild. It's a soft, gentle wind, but it's very comforting, and it allows the sweat to get cooled off your brow, and you walk away feeling unthreatened, and therefore you let it in. It's a fine, fair way to teach. It's not the right way or the wrong way, but it has value. And so this place will become a house for all the different forms that are around that want to use it to share and to give and to teach and to uplift and to awaken and to transform and to inspire. It's all here. You know, it's going to need lots of work. Everybody knows that, and it's going to need people to be inventive. How do you make this all come about? Well, it's ad hoc. It's going to be everybody figuring it out and doing what they want to do or what they need to do, and it may go down again for a while, and then it will come back up again. It's like, you know, it's hard to predict the future, it's hard to know it, but it's not hard to know the influences that are impacting this moment. Something wants to happen here. Rudy found this place and he was thrilled by it. I used to watch Rudy walk around this property. It was like, I've never seen such, I hate to use the word pride of ownership, but it was like, yes, he had this place. You know, this was going to be his future. And in a way it is. And in his future, it's become our future. And there is a future here. And it's a future, as I've said before, because John and Capella preserved it, but now our job is to breathe it back into greater life. And it's worth it. And I don't want to scare you off with the word work or anything. I don't want to scare you off, period. I just want to say, put this into the system. Put it into your psyche somewhere. And kind of just go, yes, yes. That's all you have to do. And we'll figure it out. It will come about because it wants to come about. Because something greater than you wants it to happen. But obviously, it can't happen without you. Or without me. You know, I mean, you may react the same way. I don't know. I mean, not everybody wants to hear this message. But I'm hearing it so loudly. It's so strong for me. There's a beauty that's happening here that I never would have imagined, personally. I mean, I walk around outside, I look at the environment. This place it's found a new expression of itself. But this room is the same as ever. I remember when this carpet arrived, it was white.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh, I thought it was white.
It used to be white. It's a different carpet.
Oh, it's a different carpet. Oh, okay. Okay.
Just check with the
Okay. This place, this room was you don't call it a zendo, do you? What was it for us when we did Aikido?
We did Aikido, we called it a Zendo.
A zendo. We did Aikido here, you know.
We did Zazen here.
We did Zazen. Michael used to throw me on the floor here, you know, back in the day. We were both a lot thinner. But this was an amazing space. And I never had the privilege to sit here until this weekend. I never knew that I would sit here. You know, Rudy said I wasn't ready, and I think at some point I was ready. And I'm sitting here sharing all this with you because it wants me to. So all I can say is my experience right now is just gratitude that I have allowed or have discovered thy way be done. That's all I can say. You know, I've spent my life doing my way, trying to do my way, and it's been okay. It's worked out. And a lot of my way tended to be in connection with thy way. That's kind of what I realized. It's because for 40, 50 years, whatever it's been, I sat down on a daily basis and I connected with this compass, or this fine-tuned voice, and it's a really low voice, and you all know it, that goes this way. That's all it does. And if you're making noise and you're involved in your own stuff, you will never hear it. Okay. But if you get quiet, really quiet, and you sit every day, it just speaks to you. And it just directs you into what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're smart, you listen. And if you're not smart, you don't. And if there are times where you can't figure it out, which has happened in my life, especially the selling of the house in Rhinebeck, I mean, I couldn't find the right or the wrong. Everything was equally balanced, and the inner voice just refused to give me direction. And what I've kind of learned about that is when you don't get any direction, it doesn't matter what you do. Either choice will be its own path, and you'll go where you're supposed to go. You know, in that situation, I've described this a billion times, Talia, my granddaughter, opened my heart and pulled me to the West Coast. Said and done. You know, it was pretty easy. The beauty of the house did not equal the beauty of her love. It just didn't equal. And they were both powerful, but her love won. Things like that happen. The simplicity of the thing that draws you is what you pay attention to. You follow your heart if you can, or more deeply, you follow the inner knowing that is absolutely guiding your life. Always guiding your life. And we get so messed up in so many ways because of not hearing it, not listening, doing all the wrong things. But it doesn't matter, because being a writer, I know every time I make some kind of crazy mistake in where I take a character, it turns out to be a lot better than anything I would have done. You know, the wrong choice turns out to be the right choice, is all I can tell you. And a lot of us are coming to what I call the third act. Not everybody, a lot of you are younger than that. But those of us who are coming to the third act of our life, the last part of our life, this is the opportunity to get it right. You can take any story, no matter how messy it is, no matter how disjointed, no matter how off it is, and you can bring it into some kind of final climactic moment that makes it right. You can find an ending that explains everything. You can find an ending that makes the whole thing what I've described as poetry or literature as opposed to melodrama. You can find your truth, and finding that truth makes every story right. All's well that ends well. Truly. And you have, in a way, control of the ending, but not through your will, but through thy will. Find thy will, and it will shape your life in the way that it needed to be shaped. No matter how many mistakes and missteps you took in your life, it will bring it all together. It weaves it together in the most remarkable ways, often in the very last minute. I remember writing one movie, and it was so off base. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, writing the last 3 pages, it went like that, and the whole thing came into focus. I had to go everywhere until it could present itself. And it can't present itself until you've written most of it. And when you're in the last few pages, then it can present what it needs to present. Same with your life. Sometimes it can't resolve itself until you've lived enough of it for that resolution to show what it's supposed to be. So, here we are. This is an amazing 2 days. Lots of sitting, lots of work, lots of cleaning up after bears. You know, we've had all of this stuff go on here, and it has been absolutely wonderful and beautiful, and it's the beginning of something. So, I throw that out there. We can all contribute to that unfolding, or not, you know, but it's there to happen. And it represents not just the unfolding of Big Indian and this remarkable possibility, you are entwined with that. Your personal evolution has a capacity to draw from this thing. And if you are sitting here going, oh God, not me, that's great. Because that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity. The part of you that says, no way, Jose, that's how you grow. That's how you change. That's how things happen. And if you're saying, yeah, that's good too. You know, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. So, I am the last person who would have ever made this talk. You have no idea. Blanche must be sitting here going, who did I marry? Who is this guy who's saying all this stuff because she knows, and John knows too, you know. It's not my instinct. But again, as I said at the beginning of the talk, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about, and we're in it together, whether you like it or not. Any questions?
Well, it almost seems like letting go of Rhinebeck allowed this to happen.
Probably set it in motion.
Yeah.
No, I've learned a lot about letting go of Rhinebeck. You know, it looked like such a hard choice, and I was doing the wrong thing. I really couldn't tell. It was the most painful decision I've ever had to make, really, or one of them. And then, like what's been happening, I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it. It's kind of, my life is full of miracles, clarities, truths, weavings of things together that could never have come together. You know, so now when anything doesn't work, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care whether it's not going to happen, because the other thing will happen. Whatever's supposed to happen will happen. It's really like that. Whatever is meant to be will be, and if you really surrendered, it will be wonderful. It'll be what needed to be. And that's the extraordinary thing. We're all in a position to allow ourselves to be carried by an ocean of possibility. It's kind of, in some way, an ocean of love. But often when you have, water up your nose and you're gagging, you don't think of it in those terms. But when you finally end up on the shore, or where you were supposed to get, you forget all that other stuff. And you go, wow, I've been washed is a good word, and carried to where I'm supposed to be. And that's where it's headed. It's always headed. It's the only place it's headed. And in the biggest sense, like 500,000 lifetimes from now, if that's what it is, and I don't even know if I believe in lifetimes, but if I did, you would get there. Nobody doesn't get there, as far as I can tell. But do you want to have it be 500,000 lifetimes, or do you want to do it now? And to go back to yesterday's talk, you can wake up to this right now, and that's it. Doesn't change anything. Nothing changes. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You're still the same body, you're still the same being, but you can wake up to the possibility of this moment and know that you are one with all that is and never will be anything but that. And never were anything but that, you just didn't know it. You were just too caught up in my will instead of thy will. You were too caught up in, it's about me, which is a total fabrication. It's your mind telling you that over and over, building your story, I fought a bear last night. That's going to weave into a lot of stories, and it's going to be really interesting. But that bear was there not just for your own drama, but for whatever is being said here. It's a metaphor for something greater. It's a great metaphor, and all that needed to happen. It wasn't about you, it was about the metaphor, perhaps. You understand that? It's not. You make it your story, for better or for worse, but in the end, your story was just a portion of something much more important. So we're all on this remarkable journey, and this weekend was another step in that journey, but I think a very important one. And I really thank you guys for being here, for coming. People wove in and out of it. It was exactly the way it should be, and I wish you all wonderful rides home, and we'll find a way back here, and we will sit again. Thank you.